Hiya, my name is Megan and I am the vocalist for the band VEXED, and today I'm going to be sharing with you some of my top vocal tips. So it sounds like a really obvious one, but to me the first and most important tip is warming up. I see so many interviews of vocalists who say they just don't warm up and they just go straight on stage, and it just cringes me out, to be honest, because, you know, if you were a guitarist, you tune up your strings, you know, so it's the most important part for a vocalist is your vocal cords, so you need to make sure they're warmed up properly. So for my warming up, I always do scales, so I'll show you. It's a bit weird, but I always start with vocal trills, so I push my cheeks like this and I go, and I work through that up and down the scale. Also, another thing to remember is when you're warming up, it is literally a warm-up. Don't push yourself to your full potential, just keep it really relaxed and chill. The second thing I do when I'm warming up again is I do the scales, but I do it humming. So I almost kind of do a hum at the back of my throat, so it's like keep it like that. Go up as high as you can and then stop. And that's basically my warming up routine. Next thing I'm going to talk about is screaming. This is a tricky one to kind of talk about because I am self-trained or self-taught, and I'm not by any means a professional when it comes to teaching. So whatever I say, if it doesn't work for you or it doesn't feel right, then maybe it's not right for you. But for me, this is the technique I've found. So it all starts with your breathing, and I think that's the most important thing when you're screaming, is making sure you're getting enough air. A lot of people will try and scream just from here, and it sometimes comes out quite quiet. So for me, what I remember is to take a nice deep breath of air from my diaphragm, so it's a real deep breath, instead of just filling your air from here where you go and it's really shallow. So make sure you breathe in nice and deep from your diaphragm. And then when you are actually screaming, remember to let that air pass through your vocal cords. So instead of kind of really going in your throat, you're actually letting the air pass through. So for example, if I was to scream from my throat, it'd probably be like, ah! But if I'm to scream from my diaphragm with a nice deep breath, and there's a big difference in sound. Another key thing to screaming is what I do is using a vowel technique. So for example, if I want to practice my highs, it's the I's and the E's. But if I want to practice my mids, it's the A's. And if I want to practice my lows, it's the O's and the U. So I get asked a lot how I do my lows. And the simple answer is I practice doing an O or a U. If you imagine you're biting an apple, and the way that your throat feels when you're biting it, that shape is what you should be doing when you're trying to hit a deep low. So don't restrict yourself. You see a lot of people going like this and pulling these horrible chin faces, but all that's going to do is restrict your vocal cords. What you actually need is for them to open up as much as possible. So if you're going to try and do a low, imagine you're biting into an apple. Remember that feeling in your throat, and then think of the O. So it would be ooh, ooh, and so on and so forth. Remember to push that air out at the same time from your diaphragm. So it's the air, the O, and the apple. And that's my key tips for screaming. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is just clean singing. So the mistake you shouldn't make when you're singing and screaming, if that's the kind of vocalist you are, is to try and project the same way as you would with a scream. So you kind of have to imagine that you have two different sets of vocal cords. So when you're screaming, you use your vocal cords in the way I just described, but when you're singing, you use them a completely different way. So when you're singing, you're not going to have to worry about so much of your vowels and that breath coming through the cords to project the sound. You need to actually relax it a bit, because singing is far more, not easier on the vocal cords, but it's a bit more natural. So you don't have to worry so much about pushing all that air up from your diaphragm. So if I was to chop and change from one to the other. So if I was to, for example, go, I'm gonna swing from, it's kind of relaxed. And then when I chop back into the scream, I need to take that deep air. Chandelier! Chandelier! So you kind of chop and change from one to the other, where it's nice and soft and relaxed and calm, taking kind of a step back and relaxing those vocal cords when you're singing, to really gathering up your breath and projecting that volume with the air you've just taken with the screams. And that's how I can kind of chop and change from one to the other, is because I'm not battering my vocal cords with the same technique. I'm allowing it a break from each technique when I chop and change from the other, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I really hope that this has kind of been helpful to some people, or helpful in any way if you're trying to learn how to scream. Just remember, it's a process. It's gonna probably feel like shit for a while and hurt. It's probably gonna not sound great for a long time. That's how it felt for me for ages. Trust me, I was fucking terrible before I was anywhere near good. So just remember that it's a process and that everybody has to start from somewhere. So if you want to do it, you can. There's absolutely no reason why you can't. But just make sure it doesn't hurt, drink lots of water, have a good diet, and warm up, and you'll be fine. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it was helpful in some way. Don't forget to check out my band VEXED, and our debut album, Culling Culture, comes out on May 21st via Napalm Records. Thank you, bye.